What do you focus on when you're putting together a puzzle? Maybe you look for the edge pieces so you can mark the boundaries of the picture. Maybe you grab one piece at a time and try over and over to match it up so that it makes sense. Maybe you get stuck on that missing piece and can't move on until you fix it. Maybe you avoid that one section you know is going to be super hard. Or maybe you lose patience because it's taking so long to see the big picture. You see where I'm going with this, don't you? Sometimes our lives can feel like one big confusing puzzle. You've got one piece here and another over here, and they don't make sense. Like, how could they even be a part of the same picture? You've got big, frustrating gaps, and you just can't see where it's all going. But that's where hope comes in. Even when we don't see how it all fits together, God does. In fact, God has promised that He is working all things together for good for those who love Him. Every single thing in your life has a place. Even that really weird piece fits somewhere. Yes. And even if your life feels like this right now, in the end, God will make everything right. We'll see how even the most confusing pieces fit together to form something amazing and beautiful. And because we know that God can see the big picture and is always at work, we know hope is alive. And when we choose hope, even in the darkest moments, others can see God at work. That's why hope is an amazing way to worship God with your life. Because worship is about more than just singing loud. It's all about living loud.
When the night is darkest and I feel weary, I'm not alone, 'cause you are with me. A new day is coming, I see light, and the sun will rise, and hope is alive, yeah. No matter what tomorrow brings, I know that you'll be by my side all the time. You'll never leave me. When shadows fall, I will have no fear, 'cause you're right here. When the night is darkest and I feel weary, I'm not alone, 'cause you are with me. A new day is coming, I see a light, and the sun will rise, and hope is alive, yeah. No matter what tomorrow brings, I know that you'll be by my side all the time. You'll never leave me. When shadows fall, I will have no fear, 'cause you're right here. When the night is darkest and I feel weary, I'm not alone, 'cause you are with me. A new day is coming, I see light, and the sun will rise, and hope is alive. You are a light that makes a way when I am lost. You love with everything you have, no matter the cost. You are my hope, and I will trust you with all my life. You are a light that makes a way when I am lost. You love with everything you have, no matter the cost. You are my hope, and I will trust you with all my life, yeah. When the night is darkest and I feel weary, I'm not alone, 'cause you are with me. A new day is coming,
good for life.
Hey everyone, my name is Jacob. Hey, question for you. Who likes puzzles? Ooh, I know I do. I like all kinds of puzzles. Jigsaw puzzles and Sudoku puzzles, crossword puzzles. Oh, those little pieces of metal that get all stuck together and you have to spend hours twisting them apart. Yes! Woo! I love puzzles. Every single puzzle has a solution, no matter how challenging. Puzzles remind me of hope. Hope is believing that something good can come out of something bad. You see, sometimes life can feel like a puzzle, kind of like you're trapped in a maze. But when you have hope, you know that there's always gonna be a way out. Got it, Jacob. Woo! Or what if you've got so many problems that you feel like you're underwater? Well, hope reminds you to just keep swimming. And then there are those problems that just seem impossible to figure out, like this bottle puzzle right here. The object of this puzzle is to get the ball into the neck of the bottle. Problem is, there always seems to be something in the way. Been trying, this is fun, to get this one, no, almost there, solved for like 10 years. No, come on. And then go. Oh, maybe this one is impossible. In today's story, we'll hear about two sisters and their brother who found themselves in a situation that seemed impossible. So, they called on Jesus, who didn't do what they expected. I bet this bottle wouldn't expect if I got a hammer right now.
The Bible. It's 66 books of history, stories, letters, and poetry that fit together to form God's one big story. The epic adventure of how He created us and loves us so much that He made a way to rescue us. As we travel through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, we discover people who met God and found their lives changed forever. Now, for an amazing story, inspired by the book of John, chapter 11, verses 1 through 45.
Though Jesus had no home of his own when he began to travel and teach, there were a few places that he frequently stayed at. One was the home of Mary, Martha, and Lazarus.
Come in. We want to hear everything.
Stay as long as you like.
Mary, Martha, and Lazarus lived in the town of Bethany, just outside of Jerusalem. But the last time that Jesus had been in Jerusalem, it didn't end so well with the religious leaders.
My sheep listen to my voice. My Father who has given them to me is greater than anyone. I and the Father are one.
He just claimed to be God. What an evil thing to say.
The leaders actually picked up stones, threatening to kill Jesus. Jesus knew this was not the time to confront them, so he and his friends left and crossed over the Jordan River. While they were gone, Lazarus became very sick.
I just need to lie down.
Oh, he's burning up. We need cool water.
I'll sit with him tonight.
But Lazarus didn't get better. He became more and more feverish and restless.
So hot.
Mary and Martha became so worried about their brother that they sent a messenger after Jesus. After a long journey, the messenger finally reached Jesus and his friends.
Martha and Mary say, "Lord, the one you love is sick."
Jesus turned to his friends.
This sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory. God's Son will receive glory because of it.
Perhaps Jesus' friends thought he would just heal Lazarus from a distance, but 2 days later, Jesus told his friends,
Lazarus is dead.
Wait, what?
For your benefit, I am glad I was not there. Now you will believe. But let us go to him.
Even though the religious leaders had tried to kill Jesus in Jerusalem, he chose to return for the sake of his friend. When Jesus and his friends at last neared Bethany, they were quickly spotted by the men and women who had come to comfort Lazarus' sisters.
Martha, Mary, Jesus is here.
If only he had come earlier.
I have got some things to say to him.
Martha leapt up and ran to meet Jesus outside the village.
Lord, I wish you had been here. Then my brother would not have died. But I know that even now, God will give you anything you ask for.
Your brother will rise again.
I know, when people are raised from the dead on the last day.
Martha, I am the resurrection and the life. Anyone who believes in me will live, even if they die. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this?
Yes, I believe you are the Messiah, the Son of God who is supposed to come.
Jesus nodded and looked past her.
Where is Mary?
Martha raced back to get her sister.
The teacher is here. He's asking for you.
Mary couldn't stop her tears, but she got up and hurried to meet Jesus, followed by her family and friends. When she reached him, she fell at his feet.
Lord, I wish you had been here. Then my brother would not have died.
Jesus saw her tears and the deep grief of the others around her, and his own spirit became very sad.
Where have you put him? Come and see, Lord.
As Jesus followed the crowd, his deep sadness overflowed into tears, and everyone noticed.
See how much he loved Lazarus?
Maybe. I mean, he made a blind man see. Couldn't he have showed up sooner and kept Lazarus from dying?
Soon, the group reached the cave where Lazarus' body had been laid. A large rock blocked the entrance.
Take away the stone.
But Lord, he's been in there 4 days. By now, there's a bad smell.
Didn't I tell you that if you believe, you will see God's glory?
Martha swallowed hard and nodded to several of the men standing nearby.
Go ahead.
The men braced themselves and shoved hard against the stone. The wide mouth of the cave gaped open. Jesus stood in front of it and then looked up to heaven.
Father, I thank you for hearing me. I know that you always hear me. But I said this for the benefit of the people standing here. I said it so they will believe that you sent me.
Then Jesus bent down and called loudly into the tomb.
Lazarus, come out.
For a moment, they heard nothing. And then, impossibly, they heard rustling. Lazarus stumbled out of the cave.
Lazarus!
Lazarus' face and body were still wrapped in strips of linen, but he was very much alive.
Take off the burial clothes and let him go.
Swiftly, Lazarus' friends and family unwrapped the strips of linen.
Where am I? Jesus?
Mary and Martha hugged their brother, laughing and crying.
You're alive! You died. Jesus brought you back to life.
Many of the people who had come to comfort Mary and Martha saw the incredible thing that Jesus has done, and so they believed in him.
Oh, okay. When Jesus found out that his friend Lazarus was dying, he said, "This sickness will not end in death." And he was right, wasn't he? When Lazarus died, it wasn't the end. After 4 days, God brought Lazarus back from the dead. Yes! Woo! And because of that, we can know just how powerful God is. God made something good come out of something bad. And you know what? God can still do that today. He may not bring someone back from the dead exactly, but when something bad happens to you or the world, God can help make something good come from it. When you're having a hard time with a subject in school, it may feel like a maze. But God can help you stick with it and learn from the experience. When you have problems at home or in your family, they can get so bad that you feel like you're underwater. But remember that a very powerful God is with you through whatever you're going through. For us, a problem may seem like it's impossible, but for God, the solution is simple. Got it. Here's the one thing to remember today. Whatever happens, remember how powerful God is. Whatever happens, God is so powerful, he can make good come from bad. You may not see or understand how God is working, but you've seen how God has worked in the past. So you know you can trust God no matter what. I guess I'll have to move on to a different puzzle now that I've solved this one. Oh my goodness! No, I can do it again. No, just wait. Now that I've solved this one. Hold on. Solved this one. Okay. You saw me do it now. You saw Jacob do it. Jake, come on. Come on. Just, where's that hammer?
I want to be rich. I want to be cool.
I want to be pretty.
I want to be successful.
I want to be cool. I want to be powerful.
I want to be rich.
I want to be popular.
I want to be clever.
I want to be successful. I want to be pure.
I want to be heartbroken.
I want to be merciful.
I want to be humble.
I want to be hungry.
I want to be gentle. I want to be a peacemaker.
I want to be persecuted.
Just be.
Hey, my name is Emily. Let me start with a question. Have you ever been in a conversation that got really intense really fast? For example, maybe you were talking about a project at school and how it didn't seem that difficult. Your friend asked, well, which day are you presenting? And you're like, whoa, wait, we have to present this like in front of people? When did that happen? Maybe you've hung out with somebody and y'all were kind of vibing. You were definitely interested in this person. Then they start talking about what they're looking for in a husband or wife when they get married. And you're like, hold up, we're in the 10th grade. No plans here to get married. I am out. Maybe you have a friend who just gets super serious for no reason. You're like, I'm really hoping to go to the beach this year. Then they're like, did you know that a guy was eaten by a shark last summer and they only found his shoe? What? Why are you telling me that? We all know what it's like for a conversation to go from light and chill to super intense quickly. I bring it up because I always feel that way around this time of year. I mean, Easter is chill, right? People are wearing bright colors, everyone's eating peeps, there's pictures of bunnies and baby chickens, and while none of that really makes sense, it's all kind of fun and cute. And then you come to church to hear something like this. But he, Jesus, was pierced for our rebellion, crushed for our sins. He was beaten so we could be whole. He was whipped so we could be healed. I'm sorry, what? It's intense, right? Then somebody like me sits up here and says, that's what Easter is all about. And you may wonder, huh? What happened to the bunnies and chocolate eggs? As different as it seems, Easter is actually a celebration of one of the most intense moments in history, when Jesus died on a cross and 3 days later came back to life and rose again. Some of you have heard about it for your whole life. For others of you, it's brand new and potentially a little disturbing. Either way, we all have to wrestle with the same thing. Why did it happen, and how did we get here? In this series, we've been talking about who Jesus really is. We've said that people tend to only see Jesus' life, death, and resurrection from one angle. But like a prism, when you look at it another way or shine light in a different place, you'll see things you've never seen before. As a young adult, it's important for you to think for yourself about who Jesus really is, not just what your grandma, youth pastor, or that random YouTuber said about him. It affects your whole life, so you owe it to yourself to think and decide for yourself. Which brings us here to the scene most people associate with Jesus. Even if they don't know anything else, they usually know about the cross, but that still didn't answer the question, why did Jesus die? For some of us who grew up in church, we've heard the answer. He died because of our sin. Sin is basically things we do, say, or think that we know are wrong. It's also the things we don't do that we should. But that still doesn't tell us why Jesus had to die. I mean, is sin really that big of a deal? Sure, we all get that murder is terrible, but is cheating on a quiz that bad? Using someone else's Netflix password isn't worthy of death, right? Is not doing what your mom told you to do that evil? Calling your little brother an idiot surely can't be that big of a deal. How does that lead to someone dying on a cross? That seems a little extreme. Here's the deal. Sin is a big deal because it always destroys something. Sure, all sin doesn't have the same consequences or the same amount of pain, but sin always destroys something. Sin kills, maybe not literally, but figuratively. I realize that's intense too. But think of the last time someone hurt you, lied to you, made fun of you, talked bad about you behind your back, ignored you. Why did those things bother you? Well, maybe when they hurt you, it fractured your friendship. When they lied to you, it made you feel betrayed and it killed your confidence. When they made fun of you, it killed your self-esteem or self-worth. When they talked about you behind your back, it ruined your ability to trust them. When they ignored you, it destroyed your weekend. You ended up not hanging out with anyone. Sin always takes something away from someone and creates distance. I think that's why God talks about it so much in the Bible. God doesn't say, do this or don't do that for no reason. Most of the time, sin hurts us or hurts someone else. That's why it's a big deal. You've probably seen this, right? You talk bad about a friend behind their back and they find out. It doesn't just hurt the relationship. Sometimes it kills it. You cheat on a test and your teacher finds out and you wind up failing a class or test. It kills your GPA. You lie to your parents and the trust you had built up gets damaged or maybe even destroyed for a while. You do something illegal and it kills your eligibility for sports and the scholarships that come with them. It hurts you. And that's just the price you pay when it comes to sin. There's also the price the other person pays, right? Sin costs everybody. It hurts friendships, dreams, relationships, your self-worth, your health, and any of the other things you value most. God doesn't tell us to stay away from sin because God's mean. God tells us to stay away from sin because God knows our sin hurts us and hurts others, and God doesn't want that for us. Sin can damage our relationship with others, so it makes sense that sin can hurt our relationship with God. God's love for you never changes. The way God sees you never changes. And God's closeness to you never changes. But sin has a way of making us feel like the things you've done or haven't done make it impossible for you and God to be good. You've messed up too much, and now you can't go to church, pray, sing, talk about God, or be close to God. Maybe you almost talked yourself out of showing up here today. You thought, I need to get my act together before I can go back there. Whether it's something recent or something that happened a long time ago, we tend to let our past hold us back from the relationship that God wants with us. We let our past create a distance God never intended to have with us. In week 1 of this series, we talked about how Jesus did everything so that we could belong with him and have a close relationship. But what happens when we come face to face with how bad we've messed up? What about when we realize how much hurt we've caused others or ourselves? What about when our past makes us think we are too far gone with God? What then? I want to look at a passage of scripture, the one we mentioned at the beginning of our time together, written hundreds of years before Jesus came to earth by the prophet Isaiah. Prophets were like God's messengers, right? They spoke on behalf of God to his people. Isaiah is writing about what he envisions will happen when the Messiah arrives. He writes, "But he, Jesus, was pierced for our rebellion, crushed for our sins. He was beaten so we could be whole. He was whipped so we could be healed. All of us, like sheep, have strayed away. We have left God's paths to follow our own. Yet the Lord laid on him the sins of us all." If you're like me, you're reading this and thinking, this doesn't sound great. I was already feeling pretty bad about the stuff I've done or haven't done, and convinced that God and I weren't on good terms because of it. And you're right, this doesn't sound great at all. Isaiah is basically saying that it was the rebellion of people and humans' sin that caused Jesus to be crucified. People did this to him. No, we weren't physically there when it happened, but Isaiah is saying that there is something in all of us that is capable of doing what was done to Jesus, of shifting blame, pointing fingers, doing whatever we can to avoid responsibility, even when it hurts someone else. That's sin, and that's what killed Jesus. That would be really bad news if the story ended there. But that's what makes Easter Sunday so extraordinary. The story doesn't end there. Our sin killed Jesus. Our sin condemned and punished Jesus. And if it had been anyone else on the cross, what we did would have been enough to create and keep an eternal distance between us. But not with Jesus. In fact, on the cross, after having been betrayed by his friends, turned in by religious leaders, and given an unfair trial by the governing authorities, Jesus prays, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they are doing." And what was true then is true for us now. Our sin should separate us, disqualify us, and keep us from Jesus, because that's what sin does. It breaks, it destroys, it separates, and it condemns. But because of Jesus, it doesn't get the last word. Easter Sunday is a reminder that the worst we can do, the worst that has been done, whatever our past has in it, creates a big space between us and Jesus. But it's a space that the death and resurrection of Jesus covers. Jesus hasn't removed himself from us because of our sin, even though it would have made sense for him to do so. Instead, Jesus forgives. Our worst mistake, our worst regret, our worst thought, our worst moment, our worst decision. We are not condemned, thrown away forever. No, we are forgiven. Jesus rose from the dead and proved that he was God because he had the power to come back to life. Because of what he did at Easter, there is no reason for you and I to keep our distance from God, no matter what we've done. We don't have to make it up to him or behave better so he'll be okay with us. We don't have to skip church, stand in the back, keep quiet in small group, or stay low-key in worship because we've messed up. Isaiah was right. We've all messed up, but Jesus made a way. Your past doesn't have to hold you back. The sin that you think keeps you from Jesus doesn't actually. The distance you felt between you and God because of your sin doesn't exist. Your past is not a problem for Jesus. As we celebrate this Easter, I want you to think about two big ideas. Because of Jesus, your past can't hold you back. If you've been holding back in your relationship with Jesus or holding back on a decision to follow him, you don't have to. You can dive head first into a relationship with him, and you don't have to change one thing before you do. Next, because of Jesus, no one else's past can hold them back either. Maybe it isn't your past that holds you back from God, but you've let someone else's mistakes convince you that they don't belong here. Maybe you've believed that they need to pay for their mistakes or they need to behave better before they can have a relationship with God. Maybe you've even wondered why they're here. Today can be the day that you take Jesus seriously when he says, "We are forgiven." Whether your past mistakes are big or small, I know that it's difficult to believe that they don't have to hold us back. Sometimes we need a friend or trusted adult to remind us of it. That's why small group leaders are a big deal to us. Don't be afraid to invite them into your journey of learning more about who Jesus really is. And don't be afraid to ask them to remind you of the truth you need to hear. The reason why Easter is such a big deal is because of what happened right there on the cross. Because of what Jesus did there, you and I can have a relationship with God, no matter what we've done. Your past doesn't have to hold you back. Jesus himself said, "We are forgiven."